Vermont and campaigned for him. He was running for the Senate. Democrats weren't used to winning in the Senate in this state. And so I came up. Pat was ahead by 20 points before I got there, and he ended up barely winning, but he won. My old friend Marcel, have been my closest friends. It's so good to see you guys. And Bernie, I tell you what, Bernie is the conscience of the United States Senate. My administrative assistant for years, and I think made a heck of a mark in 2 years in the Senate. I said to him, "Okay, Ted, you've been there 2 years. Of all the people you work with, who do you like best?" He said, "Bernie Sanders."
Of course! Woo!
This guy knows talent, man. And Peter, it's great to see you, and I want to thank you not only for all the good work you've done in the economy, but for your good work in foreign policy. Peter and I worked together. Peter came down to see me. We're working on matters related to the Middle East and a few other things. Peter, you're the real deal. Thank you very, very much. Let me tell you something. He needs me like he needs another hole in his head. You guys are doing just fine, but it's so exciting to be back in Vermont. You know, I'm here not only for Peter, but I'm here with the basic message, folks. To paraphrase Samuel Clemens, the reports of the demise of the Democratic Party are premature. For us out there. Let me tell you what I see, and I've now been into over 110 races. I've had the great privilege of being all over the country. Let me tell you what I think this election is about. And it's presumptuous of me to tell you what it's about in Vermont, but I think Vermont is no different than what's at stake in this election. Peter talked about 10,000 Vermonters having lost their jobs. Well, tens of millions of people have lost their jobs. My dad, who ladies knew pretty well, used to have an expression, he was a proud, decent man. He said, "Joey, remember one thing, a job, and I mean this sincerely, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to turn to your child and say, honey, it's going to be okay. It's about being able to look at your husband or wife and say, we're going to make it. It's not about, like a lot of Vermonters tonight, and millions of Americans going to bed staring at the ceiling, wondering whether or not I'm going to be able to be in this house 6 months from now. Whether or not I'm going to have my job, is it going to be shipped overseas? What's going to happen to me? The anxiety on the part of the American people is real. They're angry, and they have every reason to be angry. As I go around America and see what the policies of the Bush administration and the Republicans have done, and I'm not being political, this is factual. Factual. I see what is done. The hard work and decent middle-class people who played by the rules, did everything they were supposed to do. And woke up one morning never having missed a mortgage payment and found out because of a subprime mortgage that some guy in Wall Street thought up, all of a sudden going up, belly up on the block around the corner, all of a sudden their house is worth less than it was before. And more go under. And they find that now they owe more on their house than they, in fact, the house is worth. And they never miss a payment. And they're angry. As I said, I don't blame them for being angry. I'm angry too. As the president says, I don't bring this up to relitigate it. I bring this up so we don't relive it. So we don't have to go back to it. Tell you what this election is about nationwide, and it's the same thing here in Vermont. This election is about the competing visions that we have and the other party has for America, and how to move America forward in the 21st century. How to build a stronger, more stable middle class. How to give every kid a fighting chance. How to preserve our security without compromising our personal freedom. Look, I understand Peter's opponent calls himself a George W. Bush Republican. Well, let me tell you something. Let's just take a look at what that type of Republican did. That type of Republican strongly pushed for 8 years, and their counterparts continue to push to privatize Social Security. And I know we use that phrase all the time, but just think what would have happened to your mothers and fathers had they succeeded, and that trillions of dollars have been put in the stock market, that money relied upon by the people now living on Social Security. Imagine what would have happened, literally, not figuratively. To sacrifice personal freedom in the name of security is what they did. They declared to the world, you are either with us or you are against us. We went from being the most beloved nation in the world, literally according to the Pew Research Foundation, to one of the least respected nations in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, and look at what they did to us economically. On the Republican Party's watch, they literally let our infrastructure crumble. They made virtually no investment. They failed to invest in research and development, unlike even previous Republican administrations had done. They did not spend much time trying to find new cures for diseases. We spend $100 billion a year just to treat cancer, a year. Yet it wasn't until we came to office that we've gone from looking at the DNA of 2 cancers to 20 that affect over 100 million people. If we just find a cure for 2 of them, not only will we change people's lives, but we'll save the nation billions of dollars. Folks, this is not your father's Republican Party. This is not George Aiken's. I served with George Aiken. This is not George Aiken's Republican Party. This is a different group of people. They did nothing to invest in cleaner forms of energy, continue to rely upon the oligarchs of oil, and continuing to say the answer lays off the shores of Delaware and in the Gulf of Mexico and off the shore of California. Even if every single drop of it were able to be taken up safely, it would not do us 2 years worth of good. They watched the middle class. They watched the middle class begin to shrink. From the time Bush became president until the time his presidency ended, middle class income actually shrank 5%, while productivity increased 20%, and while for the first time since the Depression, 1% of the American people controlled over 24% of America's wealth. That never happened since the Great Depression, before the Great Depression. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you are students here at this great university? Even at a great state university like this, and I like to think mine as well as a great university, University of Delaware, middle-class families are getting priced out of college with virtually no help coming from these guys. The overall result is that we slipped to 14th in the world of the percentage of people we graduate from college. Think of that. To be absolutely, completely accurate, we're tied with 5 other nations for 9th in the world in the percentage of people we graduate. If I had said that at the University of Vermont with George Aiken standing here, he would have found it unbelievable that could happen. Ladies and gentlemen, the overall result, we lost 8 million jobs. Nothing done to staunch the bleeding. Before I lowered my right hand on that magnificent January day, before over 1 million people in the mall with a sense of hope and expectation and anxiety on their face, we lost 750,000 jobs in the first 20 days of January. Our economy shrank 7% the last quarter. Let me translate that. That's $3 trillion of America's wealth, your wealth. $3 trillion. It was not transferred, it evaporated. It was lost.